One of the other points of continuity between Israel and the church is both of them are described as being the bride of God or the bride of Christ in the New Testament. Um, One of the most beautiful places we see this is in the book of Hosea. So another Old Testament prophet, one of the oldest of the prophets in the Old Testament, is actually writing about those northern tribes that we were talking about. And he describes them as an unfaithful wife. Actually, God tells Hosea that he is to marry a prostitute named Gomer, and and his relationship with this prostitute who is faithless to Hosea. Over and over again, she goes and cheats on him, and God says the reason you're supposed to do this is to show Israel what my relationship with them is like. They just the same way that your wife cheats on you, Israel cheats on me by going to the other gods. And in Hosea chapter 2, we have this, again, the whole chapter is really pretty dark. God is accusing Israel of unfaithfulness. And yet, at the end of it, there's this beautiful section where God talks about speaking to Israel's heart as a kind of reconciliation with his bride. And Israel is spoken of as God's bride. Really beautiful. Therefore, behold, so starting at verse 14 of Hosea chapter 2. Behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak tenderly to her. And there I will make her vineyards and make the valley of Achor a door of hope. And there she shall answer as in the days of her youth, as at the time when she came out of the land of Egypt. And in that day, says the Lord, you will call me my husband, and no longer will you call me my Baal. Baal means Lord in Hebrew. It's also the title of this pagan god, Baal Hadad, that Israel was always tempted to worship. For I will remove the names of the Baals from her mouth, and they shall be mentioned by name no more. And I will make for you a covenant on that day with the beasts of the field, the birds of the air, and the creeping things of the ground. And I will abolish the bow, the sword, and war from the land, and I will make you lie down in safety. And I will espouse you forever. I will espouse you in righteousness and in justice, in steadfast love and in mercy. I will espouse you in faithfulness, and you shall know the Lord. So this beautiful language of God saying, I will espouse you forever. You will be my bride. Something that's really important here. Again, this is one of the reasons Christians, I think, should reject supersessionist theology. God never divorces his bride. Okay, even when we're faithless. Doesn't mean that there aren't consequences for our sin, but God never says, "Nope, get out of here. I don't want to have anything to do with you." He always comes back again and again and tries to restore that relationship. The book of Song of Songs, this for your 15 minutes a day of Bible reading. If you want to try a little Old Testament, maybe you should try Song of Songs. It is beautiful love poetry, even erotic poetry. It is describing a very passionate love relationship between two young lovers. And the rabbis have always read that as sort of an allegory of God and Israel. So if you read the Song of Songs and you see this beautiful love imagery, they say that's God's relationship with Israel. And later the church fathers say that's Jesus' relationship with the church. This idea of looking at the church as Jesus' bride is from the New Testament. One place in particular you see this is in one of the epistles of St. Paul, the book of Ephesians. So Ephesians chapter 5, we have a whole chapter on marriage. But then he says, husbands, so this is verse 25. So Ephesians 5, starting at verse 25. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, that he might present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or any such thing, that she might be holy and without blemish. Even so, husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. For no man ever hates his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, as Christ does the church, because we are members of his body. For this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. He's quoting the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 24 there. This is a great mystery. Another word for that in the Latin Vulgate, it says sacramentum magnum est. It is a great sacrament. So this is one of the reasons that Catholics say that marriage is a sacrament. It is a mystery that gives grace. This is a great mystery, and I mean in reference to Christ and the church. However, let each one of you love his wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. So we have this idea that the earthly relationship between a man and his wife is a reflection of the relationship between Christ and the church. This kind of comes to very mythical expression in the book of Revelation, chapter 12. There is a vision of a woman who is crowned with 12 stars. Remember 12? Okay, so she's got 12 stars. And she is pregnant with a child. And she goes off to the desert to give birth to this child that's being pursued by a dragon. Now, who is the woman? Well, she stands on the moon. She's clothed in the sun. That sounds like Mary, and it is Mary. But it's also Israel, and it's also the church. Because Mary is herself sort of the church, Israel, in microcosm.